The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a ministerial statement on the Middle East. Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago today, Hamas mounted its heinous terrorist attacks on Israeli citizens, as well as those from other nations caught in the wrong place on that day of infamy. This resulted in the worst massacre in Israel's history. That event set off what must seem to most New Zealanders like yet another of the seemingly never-ending cycles of violence in that region. We have strongly condemned the overwhelming nature of Israel's military response, as Palestinian citizens have paid a disproportionate price for the sins of Hamas. One of our primary concerns throughout has been the generational consequences of the level of suffering and violence we have witnessed these past 2 years. What hope of peace for children who have only known violence, socialised into a situation of insufferable conflict and hatred? We confirmed in New York 10 days ago what we have said repeatedly at the United Nations as elsewhere. First, a ceasefire needs to be negotiated so that the violence can stop. Second, all hostages and any remains must be returned as part of that ceasefire. And third, the Israeli government must facilitate the unimpeded flow of vital aid. We also said that we desperately wanted diplomacy to succeed and that those countries with leverage were most likely to achieve the longed-for breakthrough. We are encouraged that the United States-led peace plan, supported by Muslim countries from around the world, including Saudi Arabia, Jordan, UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt, represents a possible first step to achieving these goals. While some New Zealanders wished we would recognise Palestinian statehood in New York, the government always saw recognition as a distraction or even complication to achieving a ceasefire, the return of hostages and remains, and the unimpeded flow of aid. Our focus has never shifted from that. We continue to consider recognition as a matter of when, not if. As we said in our national statement to the United Nations, very few New Zealanders can recall any period of sustained peace in the Middle East during their lifetimes. And while we are furthest away from the conflict, we have acknowledged the strongly held views people have about it. Most New Zealanders were rightly appalled at scenes of violence and famine in Gaza, understand that we have limited ability to influence the direction of the conflict. But we can provide aid to those suffering, which we have done and continue to do so, working through those agencies that can get the aid to where it is most needed. Other New Zealanders have expressed a concern that by not recognising Palestinian statehood, New Zealand's international reputation will suffer. Well, we can report that we have not received criticism from partners or from other countries near to or far from the Middle East. Protest action that has followed our national statement in New York forms part of the democratic fabric of New Zealand, so long as it respects the laws of our country. Now, 3 New Zealanders are being held by the Israeli government, awaiting deportation. These people have gone against their government's advice not to join the flotilla in an attempt to reach Gaza by sea and are receiving ongoing consular assistance. That assistance will not stop, and we have asked for as much notice from Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs about their deportation as is possible. But one irony here that will not be lost on many New Zealanders is that the very protesters and their supporters who believe we must break off diplomatic relations with Israel are receiving consular assistance precisely because we did not do that, and they wish to break off diplomatic relations with Israel nevertheless. Another irony is that 3 private individuals freely chose to place themselves in a dangerous situation, but now expect their government to bail them out. We'll do exactly that, not least because the government feels a sense of responsibility, even for those who act utterly irresponsibly. The violent targeting of politicians' private homes by some protesters, however, is a disgrace. It has caused distress to our families and disturbed the peace of our neighbours. Means as much as these corrupt the protesters' ends, such as they are. And we must call out those members of this House who collude and collaborate with the very protesters targeting politicians' homes. Do they have no shame? Do they feel so morally righteous that you and your supporters are justified to break any law, any taboo, any political norm, and we say shame on you? We believe New Zealanders understand the limits of our ability to influence the direction of Middle East politics. We also believe they support our giving aid to those who need it. And finally, we believe that in New Zealand, the extremes on both sides of this never-ending conflict have fallen into a black hole of irrationality and senselessness. It's time to wake up, look at the situation with eyes wide open, and gain a sense of perspective. Those extremists, including those in this House, are entitled to go off the deep end and preen hysterically and maniacally about a single conflict overseas while many others rage in other parts of the world. They are entitled to do that because we live in a free society. But for the New Zealand government, it is time to refocus on our foreign policy priorities, closer to home in the Pacific and Indo-Pacific, always dedicated to make New Zealanders safer and more prosperous. Because every day spent on Gaza and Palestinian statehood recognition, or flotillas, is a day not spent on that important work on behalf of all New Zealanders.